So this is the noodles that we're gonna make for both vegan ramen. So and then for this noodle, like we are doing it for tsukemen, and so this is a flour. This is a wheat flour, and this is the whole wheat powder. So these two are the solid ingredients. And here's water and kanshi salt, and this is walnut paste. These four are going to be liquid ingredients. So we consider like kind of have like whole ingredient list, but like we kind of separate solid ingredients and the liquid ingredients to have like this formula of recipes. Okay, so let's start making noodles. So the solid ingredients, the whole wheat powder with the wheat flour. So we first like put it into this mixer. So this is a 10 kilograms mixer, and the minimum batch is 4 kilograms of solid ingredients with liquid ingredients on top of it. And then so this is a 10 kilograms mixer, so like you can mix up to 10 kilograms of solid ingredients. On top of it, you're adding liquids. So the maximum amount of liquid you can get up to is around like 4 kilograms. So in total, you're getting about like 14 kilograms of dough at a time. So out of 14 kilograms dough, you may be able to like get about like up to like 100 servings. And by the way, this machine is like called Rичмен 1 machine. Okay, so for the liquid ingredients, we need to dissolve everything in water. So we are dissolving the salt, kanshi powder, right? We need to dissolve like thoroughly, like completely. Make sure that, and then one thing that's different is this time around is walnut paste. And walnut paste is a bit dense, so you just add a little bit of like water to kind of dilute it, and then so like make it more liquid before we add it to the dough or the flour. So first we add the liquid onto the lid, which has like small holes in them. Like so, from these small holes, that liquid can drip through to the flour, little by little, so that we don't have to add like all the liquid all at once. This basically allows for like a good hydration of the flour. The color bit looks like coffee, but like milk coffee, but that's from the walnut. And so it's mixing, but like we can't wait for the mixer to be done. Like just we're too impatient for that. So she prepared the dough beforehand, and see like how she put the dough in the plastic bag and shield it. So that's for the resting. That's for the first resting. And in total, this is a 42% hydration ratio dough. So that you see the crumbles is like kind of bigger. And so what we're doing right now is like we are feeding this dough into the set of rollers. set of rollers that with that like roller gap, like that's set to certain clearance. And for this type of dough that's this big, this side of crumbles, we are going to set the initial roll gap to like 2 millimeter. Yeah, we're sorry about like, we're sorry about like we can't let you guys smell the dough because of the walnut paste that we used. Is that there's strong flavor of like walnut coming out of dough, and so there's a dough sheet coming out of the other side of the machine, and like we widen it. We widen it like on the rolling pin, and then like this allows us to like kind of like automatically wind it. But you may be able to see that like dough is like still pretty rough, like fragile, and so we still need to like kind of develop the gluten structure through rollers, and this is like going like really slow first because we want to apply very good pressure onto the dough by going slow. So for the mixer, so we added like just about 1/3, I mean 2/3 of the liquid first, and then we add the rest of the water, rest of the liquid, and then mix it for 1 more minute. So that for this level like hydration, we just mix it for 5 minutes in total. So the first process we call it rough foaming because like the dough sheet that's coming out is pretty rough and fragile. But we have to like make it firm, make it stronger. And to do that, we are separating it to two separate sheets, and then we are compounding them into again like one sheet of dough through rollers. This set of rollers, and so that was 2 millimeter. That was 2 millimeter roller gap that it's going through, and then so it's supposed to be like each sheet is 2 millimeter in thickness, and then we are combining like two separate sheets, right? So that's supposed to be like 2 millimeter plus 2 millimeter, so that's 4 millimeter equivalent of like dough is like going through a roller, right? So, but like we always like apply this rule of 70% because we don't want to thin it, drastically because that would damage the like gluten structure inside dough. So we apply this rule of 70%. So that's 2 millimeter plus 2 millimeter, like 4 millimeter. 4 times 70%, 0.7, like 2.8 millimeter. But we want to make it simple, so like we round it up to 3 millimeter. So now it's that those sheets are going through roller gap of like 3 millimeter. Okay, so that was first what we call like combining process. So the dough that came out like has like kind of smoother kind of surface, and it's a lot firmer than before, but we want to make sure that it's firm enough by doing another round of this combining process. So that was 3 millimeter, right? So 3 millimeter, like again, like we are separating into two sheets, and so each sheet is 3 millimeter in thickness. So again, like 3 plus 3, 6. So 6 millimeter equivalent dough is going through, and so 6 times 0.7 is 4.2. But we want to make it simple by rounding it down to 4 millimeter. Set the roll gap to 4. And so after that, like we are not gonna do any more of this like combining process. So after this, the dough, the gluten structure has been developed like well enough. So we're not gonna stick them together, right? So from this point on, we want to dust on the dough to prevent it from sticking. Especially this is a high, we call it like high hydration ratio dough noodles. We need to dust a lot to keep it from sticking. So we have this automatic duster that helps us dust it on it, and you can adjust the like volume of dusting easily. So after second combining, like all you have to do is just thin it to the final thickness. So that was 4 millimeter roller gap, like it going through, right? And then so from this point on, there's 4 times 0.7, like 2.8. But like to make it simple, like we run it up to 3 millimeter. So now it's going through 3 millimeter roller gap. And from this point on, we can go faster. And what she did was like just speed up the roller speed. So that was 3 millimeter roller gap. And next round, we're gonna thin it again, but we wanna measure the thickness of the dough first. So it's going to 3 millimeter, but like the actual thickness is actually 4.6-ish. So like there's a difference of like 1.6 millimeter. So the actual thickness dough is like always bigger than the roller gap we set because it's dough, it bounces back after it's gone through the roller gap. So to get to the final thickness with precision, we need to know what the difference is between the roller gap and actual thickness with dough. And this is going to be the tsukemen noodles, and the tsukemen noodles are typically thick, and so being thick in size means that like the noodle texture should be soft, and so that's why the hydration ratio is 42%. It's like, and so that's now it's going through 2 mm roller gap. So going to 2 mm, and let's measure the actual thickness again. And so that's now about 3. So there's a difference of like 1 mm between roller gap and actual thickness. And the final thickness that we are aiming at is around like a 2.2 mm in thickness. So we set the roller gap to 1.2 mm, and we expect the dough to bounce back by 1 mm. So 1.2 plus 1 mm difference, we should get the final thickness of 2.2 mm. And kata we are using for this tsukime noodle is it's called like number 12 square number 12, and this means that like each group is 2.5 mm in width. So each round of noodles is going to be like 2.5 mm in width, and the thickness is controlled by the roller gap, right? So the size would be the thickness 2.2 and width 2.5, a bit like rectangular shape. So we set a cutter and set a conveyor, and we want to mount the duster over the conveyor because we want to dust the noodles that are actually coming out as well. And so we are cutting it, and you can adjust the length of the noodle by the volume. And basically, why you can adjust the length is that like basically the length of noodle means the serving size of the noodles. So the longer the length, the bigger the serving size. And typically like tsukime noodles, because tsukime noodles like comes with like kind of less soup, smaller amount of soup like than regular like noodle soup. So the ramen shops like usually compensate for that small amount of soup with bigger portion of noodles. For tsukime noodles, the portion size is usually bigger. Typically, like in weight of like fresh noodles before cooking, typically like we're talking about like 150 grams to like for some like pretty ramen shops like they probably do like 200, so like regular size. And as I talked about it, the benefits of like homemade noodles. So for shops like that are making their own noodles, they happily like give the customer like free additional portion noodles, or like they let the customers choose the different sizes for the same price, because the cost of like making noodles for them is like very, very small. Okay, so that's how we did that. The noodles for vegan ramen, and like walnut paste needed in them. So again, like the smell of walnut is, we're sorry that you guys can't we can't let you guys smell it, but. So we've been doing this class for some time, and like we usually do the real class, like by actually to going to like different places. We have like places in Holland, Netherlands, near Amsterdam. We have a place in New York, Singapore, Seoul, Korea, and then other places. We did this kind of class in other places. Like we typically do like half a day, like one whole day, and of course like we make different types of noodles, dishes. So we can't like let you guys try them, but like this kind of class, it's very difficult for us to provide it for you guys. So, but because we have these locations, Singapore, New York, Amsterdam, Seoul, Korea, if you live nearby, or like if you're interested in like trying out like our noodles, what we made this class, or like um, you know just seeing the demo like in person, just feel free to contact us, and like we'll be more than happy to like kind of arrange it for you guys, and we'll try our best to make them available for you guys. So please let us know. Okay, let's go to the kitchen.
My name is Thomas. I'm one of the instructors at the Yamato Ramen School. And today I'll be talking about vegan ramen. So I'm going to talk about the vegan ramen using the board. First of all, nowadays, vegan ramen option is an essential part of a ramen shop. So today I will be showing you two different types of vegan ramen. First one's going to be vegan tantan ramen and vegan tomato skimen. And I want to talk about how to improve your vegan ramen. So I have 5 points for you. And first point is vegan dashi. So dashi means stock in Japanese, and Japanese stock often use dried ingredients to make the stock. And some of the examples are kelp dashi, and kelp dashi is made from dried kelp. And also shiitake dashi is made from dry shiitake, and obviously dried tomato dashi. So by using these dashi as a part of your vegan ramen soup, it's going to increase the amount of umami into the bowl of ramen, and it's going to make it more flavorful. And number two, fermented seasoning. And some of the examples are soy sauce and miso paste. And so how these soy sauce and miso paste is made is by fermenting the soybeans. And by fermenting the soybeans, it's going to break down the amino acids and increase the amount of umami. So by using the soy sauce and miso paste into the flavoring sauce as a part of your element of your ramen, it's going to add in more flavor and umami. And number three, oil. So vegan ramen tends to lack an amount of oil. So by using oil like sesame oil or olive oil, it's going to add in like a little bit of a richness to the bowl of ramen. So yeah, add in some sort of oil into your ramen. And number four, spices. So like I said, vegan ramen tends to be a little bit too bland or lack in flavor. So by adding in some spices, it's going to add in some kick to the bowl of ramen. So it's going to make it more flavorful. And lastly, beans, nuts, and seeds. So these will add in it's kind of like adding in the oil. Beans, nuts, and seeds has a high content of oil. So it's going to give that richness to the bowl of ramen. Like, for example, by using the milk alternatives made by these beans, nuts, and seeds, it's going to make the ramen a little bit more creamy and rich. And also, they have a lot of protein in it as well, so it's going to balance out the nutritional value of your vegan ramen as well. Okay, so please, when you're making your vegan ramen, consider these 5 points. I'm sure it's going to make your vegan ramen a lot better by focusing on these 5 points. Okay. So let's actually talk about the ramen we're going to be making today. So first, I want to talk about the vegan tantan ramen. And for the soup base for the tantan ramen, we're going to be using pumpkin, onion, garlic puree. And we're going to mix in some kelp dashi for the umami and soy milk for the creaminess. And the pumpkin puree right here. Okay. And for the flavoring sauce, we're going to be using vegan miso motodare. And for the vegan miso motodare, it's not just miso. There's all sorts of ingredients in this motodare. And this recipe is taught at a ramen school. So if you're interested, please consider a ramen school. Or for people that can't come to a ramen school, we have a textbook. This textbook is used at a ramen school, and this talks about how to make the stock, motodare, and flavored oil. And also, this other book talks about everything about noodle making. So please consider these. If you're interested, please contact us through our website, and we're going to reply back to you. Okay, so we're going to move on. For the flavored oil, we're going to be using chili oil. It's going to give that nice kick to the ramen, and also sesame oil for the nice aroma. And for the noodles, we're going to be using medium hydration, medium thickness noodles. And we're going to change it up a little, and by using black sesame noodles. We mixed in some black sesame into the dough, so the noodle itself has some flavor and aroma. Okay. And for the toppings, for tantan men, often have some ground pork as a topping, but obviously we can't use that for vegan ramen. So I chopped up some shiitake mushrooms and flavored it with soy sauce to make a vegan tantan ground minced topping. And we're going to be using leek as well, green onion, and some spices. So this special spices, it's a mixture of Szechuan pepper, and black pepper, and chili pepper. Same amount of each. And this is a great mixture of spices. It's going to give a nice kick to the ramen, and it's great for miso ramen, spicy miso, tantan men, skemen. It goes well with anything. Okay, so we're going to be using this later on. Okay, and next, vegan tomato skemen. And we're going to be using, for the soup base, we're going to be using tomato sauce. And this tomato sauce is pretty much a pasta tomato sauce. So we use tomatoes, onion, garlic, basil, and etc. And we're going to mix in kelp dashi for the umami, and once again, soy milk for the creaminess. And for the flavoring sauce and flavored oil, we're going to be using the same one for the tantan men. And for the noodles, for skemen, they often use high hydration thick noodles. And for the toppings, because it's tomato skemen, we're going to be using tomatoes, shiitake mushrooms as a chashu alternative, and green onion, deep fried burdock for a nice crunch, and lastly, shiso leaves instead of using basil. It's going to give, if you use basil, the ramen is just going to be Italian tasting, but if you use shiso leaves, it's going to give that nice Japanese flavor. Okay, so let's get going. I'll start off from making the tomato skemen. We're going to start off by boiling the noodles. So, and we're going to be using special skemen noodles today as well. This skemen noodle is walnut skemen noodles. Mixed in some walnut paste into the noodles. It gives a nice walnut flavor, and also that oil from the walnut gives a nice texture to the noodles. So it's very interesting. So let's start off when boiling these noodles. Skim-in noodles, the boiling time is very long. We're going to boil these for 5 minutes. So make sure the boiling machine is rapidly boiling, and put the noodles into the basket. Mix for the first 5 or 10 seconds and boil for 5 minutes. Okay. Make sure the noodles moving around in the basket so it gives that nice consistent boil. Okay, so while the noodles are boiling, let's move on to the soup part. Okay, so today for the skim-in, we're going to be using that tomato sauce, soy milk, and kelp dashi. And I purposely kept the ingredients separate because I wanted to show you what goes into the soup. So first, I'm going to put in 100 grams of this tomato sauce. And 50 grams of this soy milk. Makes a soup very creamy. And for the umami, kelp dashi, 50 grams. Okay. And here's the miso-based motodare for vegan ramen. And this is a chili oil-based flavored oil. And for regular ramen, we usually pour in the flavoring sauce and the oil into the bowl, and later on pour in the heated up stock into the bowl. But since we're making a thicker sauce skim-in, we're gonna put in the flavoring sauce directly into the saucepan. And oil as well, directly into the saucepan. Okay, we're going to heat up this dipping sauce. Make sure to use a whisk so that everything is completely mixed. Good. And now I want to talk about the toppings. So this is a deep fried burdock. This is going to give that nice crunch to the ramen. And sauteed shiitake mushroom and tomato slices, green onion, and shiso leaves, the alternative of basil. And I'm also going to use the mixed spices to give that nice kick to the ramen. Okay. And for skim-in noodles, so you usually chill the noodles for skim-in. So you usually make the boiling time 2 times or 1.5 times longer if you're going to chill the noodles. Because when you chill the noodles, the starch is going to harden. So you have to like soften, overboil the noodles and then wash and chill the noodles so it's perfect texture later on. So for these type of thickness noodles, if you're going to serve these hot, these are probably going to be boiled in like 3 or 4 minutes. But since we're serving this chilled, we're going to be boiling it 5 minutes or maybe 6 minutes. So after these are boiled, we're going to move the noodles into this strainer, and we're going to wash It'll remove the starch around the noodles and chill the noodles. Okay, 5 more seconds. Okay. So pour the noodles into the strainer, and I'm going to wash the noodles. Make sure to wash the noodles at least twice. So the first time is to remove the starch, second time is to chill the noodles. So strain out the water. So second time. Now I want to take the noodles. I want to present the noodles nicely lined up. So I'm grabbing all the noodles. And take that nicely lined up noodles into the bowl. And let's start plating the toppings. Okay, so first I'm going to take the sauteed shiitake mushrooms. And next, tomato slices. And some green onion in the back for that green. And some deep fried burdock, gobo in Japanese, in the center for that crunchiness and for nice height as well. Then you have all the colors, white, brown, red, green. So it's nice and colorful as well. So let's plate this. And also for the sauce, the dipping sauce goes into this bowl. And for the toppings, shiso leaves, deep fried burdock, and that special spice. Okay, so this is how to prepare your tomato skimming, vegan tomato skimming. Okay, so next we're going to be making that vegan tantanmen. So first, I'm going to prepare the soup. Once again, I'm going to show you what goes into the soup. So first, 150 grams of pumpkin, onion, garlic puree. And soy milk, 50 grams. Oh, sorry, 100 grams. 100 grams of this soy milk for that creaminess. And kelp dashi for the umami. Okay, and 1 scoop of this miso motodare, miso-based motodare. And 1 scoop of that chili oil-based flavored oil. And we're going to heat up the soup. So I'm going to heat up the soup. And while the soup is heating up, we're going to boil the noodles. We're going to be using this black sesame noodles. The boiling time will be 1.5 minutes. Okay. And once you put the noodles into the basket, mix for the first 5 or 10 seconds. Okay, so while the noodles are boiling, let's get back to the soup. So the soup is nice and hot. So let's pour the soup into the bowl. And let's just wait for the noodles to be boiled. And for the toppings, we're going to use this chopped up shiitake mushroom sauteed with soy sauce. It's going to be like the alternative for that ground pork, minced ground pork. And some chopped up leek and thinly sliced green onion, and put some deep fried burdock as well. Okay, 15 more seconds. And once again, once the noodles are boiled, make sure to... Okay, sorry for that interruption. Okay, so the noodles are boiled. I'm going to put the noodles into the soup and just like line up the noodles. And for the toppings, we have the sauteed shiitake mushrooms in the middle. Just like stack it up in the middle. And green onion on top of the shiitake mushroom, and leek just like around this the center, and a little bit of that deep fried burdock on the top. And lastly, I'm just gonna pour in a little bit of that chili oil for the nice red. I'm just going to wipe the bowl a little. So this is how to make your vegan tantan ramen made with pumpkin soup. Oh, sorry, I forgot about that. Mixed spices. So this is a key. So I'm just gonna season it with this spices. So now it's done. Vegan tantan men.